Hi and hello, watch fans, and welcome to another edition of the Real Time Show with me, your friendly neighborhood watchmaker, Rob Nuts. I'm calling in all the way from Dresden today, joined by the friendly neighborhood jeweler, Alon Ben Joseph, calling in all the way from Amsterdam. I've doubled it up that time for something a little bit new. We are sitting here just a few days removed from the announcements of the GPHG Awards 2023, and we're going to buzz through all of those with our feedback and some interesting user-generated content created by our community, the Real Time Show Network. First, however, we have to address the winner of another competition, a competition of our own, the giveaway for the Sequent Second fucking Sun activity watch, which we launched a few weeks ago and haven't followed up on since while we collated the answers coming in. We apologize for the tardiness in that regard, but we have a winner. And they actually came within about 2,000 steps of the actual answer, which was, I'm sorry to say, a paltry 145,045 steps for me, David, and Alon combined throughout the week that we set out for the challenge. So that's a little bit below what our step counters would recommend, but of course, we're old, lazy, middle-aged men. Isn't that right, Alon?
That's definitely right. So congratulations. It was amazing to see how many of you participated and sent in their votes. It's actually great fun. So, Rob, who is the actual winner?
The winner is, drumroll please, this is where we need a producer to provide some sound effects, right? But DC Hane from Instagram, also from Planet Earth. DC Hane's handle, in case you're interested in following him, is at DCHANNAY, and his profile picture is a very nice Breitling Navitimer. He is now the proud owner of the new Sequent watch, which arrived with him yesterday, so we have actually fulfilled our obligation of delivering the watch, which is kind of what we wanted to make sure it happened before we announced it. And you'll see that he's already posted it on his page, and he has some likes from Sequent, Sequent World, and Alon Ben Joseph. No idea who that guy is, but he sounds like an absolute champ. Talking of champs, let's move on to the GPHG 2023. Now, as you know, we recently had our two-part episode where we predicted each of the models. We're not going to spend as much time on each section as we did there, largely because very few of the models we predicted, either because we wanted them to win or we believed they would, actually took home the gong. However, within our group, within the Real Time Show Network, thanks to Com, who put together a wonderful poll that we were all able to take part in, we know exactly how many of our listeners guessed correctly. And there was a winner, a standout winner with 7 correct answers, and that was JV. Headline for this episode, however, should have been Texan fails to take part in poll, and that Texan is Keith Martin, who'd massively dropped the ball, let down his entire state, possibly even nation, and didn't partake in the contest. So we thought we'd get that out of the way. All of our listeners who took part in the poll and registered positive results were more than happy for us to use their names on air, and Keith also needed to be called out because what you thinking, man? What you thinking? Next year, I bet he's going to run away with the victory because he's got a pretty good eye for these things. But this year, the title goes to JV. So with 7 correct answers, he put everybody to shame, especially Alon and I. What did you get in the end? How many correct answers did you get?
Oh my God. So, Rob, I had another business event that evening of GPHG. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to fly out to Geneva, although I was invited. It's my, I believe, 4th year as an Academy member of GPHG, so they invite me every year. And I had a little surgery done on my jaw, so I was literally under the weather. But I had an event in Amsterdam, so I did attend. I didn't look at my phone for 3-4 hours. When I came up for air, I looked at my phone. I had something like 300-400 messages just in our TRTS network group on WhatsApp. So, so I missed that whole user-generated competition, which I really regretted not being real-time part of. That was so much fun. So thank you to the TRTS fam. And I actually don't know. But the thing is, I vote differently than you do, right?
Yeah, right.
So I should have had 2 entries actually. But let's walk it through now. But how many did you get right? You were right. You were high in the ranking, I saw.
I don't know what rankings you were looking at. Maybe it was something other than scores. I think I only came away with a couple. I think I literally got two.
Oh, did you?
I know I can remember one that I got correct. I'm just scrolling through the answers now. I got two right. Yeah, only two. But then I vote with what I believe should win, not what I believe will win. And the biggest example of this for both of us is what happened in the Sports Watch prize again, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Let's start off where all things begin, the Ladies Watch prize. Now, you picked the Arnold and Son. I picked the Beauregard. Neither of us won. I think if we had been voting really clinically, we might have got this one. It was the Piaget Hidden Treasure, which was a watch that we both mentioned in our rundown. So, worthy winner?
Yes, definitely. I do think it's a worthy winner. As you said, they deserve it. I said in my analysis that I love the fact that they didn't use white diamonds, and it's a very artistic design and watch. Quick intermezzo. If you, again, like the two previous episodes, want to look at what we're discussing, go to the website gphg.org. And on the homepage, you'll find a tab, a square, an image that says prize list 23. That's what we're looking at right now. So I do think they definitely deserve it. It is a bit 70s. I actually forgot to ask or mention an open question if this is a reinterpretation of a 70s watch Piaget made already. That's a question that we might need to ask Piaget. Or maybe you know, Rob.
Well, I'm sure it is, but I'd love to get the answer from the horse's mouth. So, yeah, let's try and get someone from Piaget on air. I know one person that works for the company, not, I believe, in a position of management, but maybe she could point us in the right direction. Now, interestingly enough, I have all of the data from Com in front of me here. So we know statistically how right or wrong our community was. Now, overall, the community got this one right. The community had the Piaget Hidden Treasures in number one. It was a close run thing, though. Just under 30% of people chose the Piaget Hidden Treasures. Very close behind it was the Hermes. I mean, really close behind it, like less than a couple of percentage points. And then the Arnold and Son came third. I think the only other two pieces to receive votes, the XR by La Montre d'Art Espressione Romantica, that actually came in fourth position, and the Beauregard came in fifth. The Van Cleef and Arpels failed to register a single vote from our community. So everyone only gets one vote, although I suppose they could have voted a couple of times if they wanted to. Some people did probably go in and do a favorites and then a projected winners, which is fine because it's all for fun. It's all interesting data to have. Let's move on to the next collection. That's the Ladies' Complication. I think here we both went for the Anderson Genève, didn't we?
We did.
And the community agrees. Again, the same percentage, exactly the same percentage, actually. Just under 1/3 of people picked that. Close behind it was, can you guess the second place? I guess you haven't looked through these stats yet, but have a guess.
Honestly, I scanned through them very quickly, but I had such a heavy week work-wise and health-wise, and I'm still not fit. So my memory doesn't serve me at all. No, I don't know. Please share.
So it's the IWC came second. So they were working on the concept that we were discussing. You know, the fact that ladies' watches don't have to be covered in diamonds to be ladies' watches. After that came the Louis Vuitton, and then the Chopard Imperial with just over 10%, just 14% of the vote. And then we had the Dior Montre Grand Soir Automate Etoile de Mancy. That was 10% on the nose. And funnily enough, just under 10%, we had the Gucci timepieces, G Timeless Planetarium. So it did get a couple of votes. Not too many, but a few. That's interesting to see.
It is interesting to see. And to add to that, it's super cool that we're having more and more ladies in the community, our TRTS network. So that's interesting to see. And I did actually remember that discussion in our chat about the ladies' watch. And they also gave us feedback after our last week's episode that we aired. So it is interesting to see. And we have a cool interview coming up soon on the show with a very vivid lady. So she also actually resonates what both you and I are saying and what the network is saying, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. She does have the same standpoint on what is not necessary for a woman's watch to be a woman's watch. That's not to preclude the possibility of a woman's watch being designed with diamonds on it. But yes, she does echo that, and she'll be on the show very, very soon. And you'll know exactly who we're talking about when her episode hits the air. But the winner was actually the Dior, which some people found ghastly, to say the least. But the Academy, those in the know, obviously didn't. So that was the watch that actually came fifth out of six in our network, but it won the prize. I don't know what you think about this.
I guess they looked at the Automate, and that's why it won. Because I have two browsers open. So when you go to 2023 edition in the menu and click on the sub menu nominated timepieces, you can scroll back to which six were nominated. I I guess my guess was the jury would have gone for Louis Vuitton. Also because I have a feeling that people want to give Jean Arnaud even more wings and to reward him for what he's doing for the watchmaking industry. But on a mechanical level, I agree with the choice. Aesthetically, I don't.
Interesting, very interesting. So the next category is the men's complication watch prize. So the six nominated timepieces for the men's complication prize were the Artia, the Audemars Piguet, the Beauvais 1822, Parmigiani Fleurier, Piaget, and Voutilainen.
Yes.
We both went for the Artia because we've had it in our hands and we were very impressed by it. And the network, they voted strongly, actually, with, wow, actually over 33% of the vote for the first time. The Parmigiani Fleurier Tonda PF Minute Rattrapant is their favorite. So that is interesting to me. A few percentage points behind it was the Piaget Polo Perpetual, also very surprising to me. Slightly behind that one, with around 20%, was the Beauvais. Then the Artia came in and right with 10% of the vote, and then below 10%, around 7% for both, was the Audemars Piguet and the Voutilainen. So the network really bombed on this one because the winner was the Voutilainen, which maybe would be the one, if I'd been voting cynically, I would have picked, because Kari's Kari, and sometimes it seems the board picks the watchmaker rather than the watch. Now, that's not to say this is a bad watch. My personal preference for the Voutilainen pieces is always a round case, but what do you think? Worthy winner, Elon, or not?
Well, you know that both of us are big fans of Kari, and I did like the design. It's totally out there. Usually, it seems juries that change every year go for the bigger names. I thought they would go for the Audemars Piguet or the Beauvais because simply it's more complicated. But I guess that since our friend NTRTS Network member Pietro was on the jury this year as well, maybe he swung it more into the direction of the indies. So, and if I think about that, it's not that odd. But I like that they went for the underdog because it's an underdog watch, isn't it? It's not for everyone.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not for everybody at all. But it is obviously a quality watch. There are some cases where we sort of made the right statement and said, oh, this isn't our pick, but it is probably the best watch within it, and therefore will probably take home the prize. And yeah, that turned out to be the case with this one. It was echoed by a category that we will jump to now, slightly out of sequence. Let's do the Tourbillon Watch Prize next. The Tourbillon Watch Prize had 6 entries from Arnold & Son, Beauvais again, Bulgari, HYT, Laurent Ferrier, and Parmigiani Fleurier. Here, the community absolutely, overwhelmingly, 40% of the vote voted for Laurent Ferrier. And then with half as many votes, we had the Arnold and Son and the HYT tied with 20% each. And then with half as many votes again, the Parmigiani and the Bulgari, the Bove, didn't receive a single vote here. Now, I voted for the HYT. Which one did you go for here? Did you go for the Arnold and Son?
No, I didn't. I went for Laurent Fay. I gave Aronson a lot of credit. I said what turned me off was the Roman numerals, and I said they took the vacuum position, not vacuuming, but the vacuum created by Jacquedo leaving the very dressy style. And I said it's a beautiful canvas for collabs. But I definitely went for the Grand Sport. And I guess that if HYT wasn't there, I think you said that you would have gone for it as well. So we can be very brief. The community agrees. I agree. You kind of agree. Rightful winner.
Yeah, I mean, this was exactly the example I was pointing to when we sort of identified it was almost certainly going to win, despite you picking it and me going with my baby, the HYT. Okay, let's do the icon next. This was a category that the community was surprisingly against the grain.
And that's an interesting what the community did here, because technically, four are definitely iconic. There's no discussion about it. We could discuss about the Chopin, and you and I both picked the Ulysse Nardin, or did you go for the IWC? I don't remember.
We both picked the Ulysse Nardin. You had me down for the Navitimer, but no. So the models in play here were the Audemars Piguet, Breitling, Chopard, IWC, Schaffhausen, Tag Heuer, and Ulysse Nardin with the Freak 1. Our audience voted overwhelmingly for the Chopard. Digest that.
I think everybody's scared for Warkey.
Yeah. Waki is a big Chopard fan.
Walkie, Master Walkie. No, so I saw that in the results. It's interesting because I guess our crowd is rather modern, and this is a very dressy watch. It is a dress watch, very dressy watch, rightfully in the 6 nominees list. I didn't think it would win, but that surprised me to see those results.
Yeah, so the model that actually won the contest, according to GPHG, was the Freak 1. So we picked up a point there ourselves. But in the network, that was in second place, tied second place, with 20% of the vote, along with the IWC Schaffhausen. And then just behind was a Breitling Navitimer, and behind that was a Tag Heuer Carrera. Amazingly, the AP didn't receive a single vote from our audience, which is, I think, a credit to our audience, if I'm being quite honest.
Yeah, it is. May I ask you a question, or I want to raise not a hypothesis, but actually a general discussion, and maybe even more so to our listeners to fill our mailbag. When is a design in general, and then zooming in on the watch industry, a particular watch eligible to be called an icon? What do I mean by that? We had a rather long discussion about what is vintage, when is something vintage and antique, right? So we had a long debate about that. Everybody is in consensus about antique being 100 years old. So when something is 100 years old, it's antique. But vintage, everybody has a different definition. It seems same goes for iconic, doesn't it? So I always had a very soft rule for myself that I don't think something can become a design icon within a generation. What is a demographic generation? Some say 15 years, some say 30 years. So I personally don't think something can become iconic within, let's call it 25 years, clicking it to the vintage story. That's my personal opinion. What's yours, Rob? And I would love our listeners to send in their view of when something can be called iconic and what's the definition of iconic.
Wow, you've opened a can of worms there, because this one's maybe even more tricky to wrap one's head around than the vintage, because at least with vintage you can apply like time limitations, criteria to it that make for a hard and fast rule. I like what you're saying, that you also add in a time component, but that in itself obviously is not enough. Like, the watch has to play a role. Now, interestingly, I was having a conversation with Lucy Cheesewright, the famous events organizer and prominent woman in watchmaking, who was previously, until very recently, with Watch Pro and still responsible for the organization of the Watch Pro salon that I attended just this past weekend. And she was saying, I was saying to her that, in my opinion, she is already an icon of the industry in terms of someone working in it. And I used an analogy based on my love of sports, as I often do. You know, I'm a big American football fan, or I'm a small, big American football fan. And I was talking about the Hall of Fame in American football. Now, if the Hall of Fame, which is a voted honor that players and front office personnel are eligible for 5 years after they retire, or in the case of general managers, coaches, or longtime journalists, for example, there can be exceptions to the rule if they're still active for many, many years after one would expect them to retire. It's not simply a stats-based award. It isn't necessarily who has the most sacks or the most touchdowns or the most yards thrown. It's all contextual. And the simple rule, if there is one, for eligibility or election to the Hall of Fame is that you can't tell the story of football without that person. So there are great players, the Hall of Very Good, we call them, who in some eyes, by some metrics, just by watching them play or the effect they had on their team, they could be a regular MVP for their team, should stand with a gold jacket and a bronze bust in Canton, Ohio, but they don't, because really what they ultimately managed to achieve in the grand narrative fell slightly short. So for me, I guess I would say a watch is iconic when you can't tell the history of watchmaking without it. I use the same process to elect Lucy to the imaginary Hall of Fame of watchmaking, and I think that I would use the same, slightly subjective criteria maybe for an iconic watch, but you're never going to get away from a little bit of subjectivity with this discussion. But that's where I'd go. So I think that the Freak was an absolutely deserving winner. I'm very interested by the community's result, and that's a discussion point for another day for sure. Moving on to the thank you. Sorry. Moving on. Sorry, you got something else?
I just wanted to add that I love the fact that you took people into it. I also look, obviously, when are sneakers iconic or no? And let's leave it at that. And maybe we can dedicate a whole episode. Or, David, I know you're listening. Here is a free article topic for you.
Brilliant. That's maybe the best place for it, actually. Let's get David to work on that, because I think he'll have some interesting opinions himself. Okay, moving on to the calendar and astronomy category. This was a contest between Bove 1822, Felipe Pekulik, your choice, IWC Schaffhausen, Messina Lab, Parmigiani Fleurier, my choice, and Piaget. The community overwhelmingly voted for the Felipe Pekulik. It had over 40% of the vote. Trailing behind it with just under 20% each, all tied around 18, was the Bove, the Messina, and the Parmigiani. And then lagging behind with 10% was the Piaget, and way back with just a sneaky little 3, nearly 4% was the IWC Schaffhausen. The winner, amazingly, perhaps, was the Bove. Discuss.
Disgusting, did you say?
I said discuss, but that might be a good place to start.
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, Bove. Congrats. I'm really, and I mean this, happy for you, boys and girls. You deserve a prize. Unfortunately, I hoped it was the other one. So I hoped it was the Recital 27. I'm happy for you guys. The caliber is amazing. I don't believe you get the credit you deserve as a brand and the people and the artisans behind the brand. So in that sense, I'm happy. Do I think They should have gotten it. If you just look at mechanical again, I understand the reasoning the jury probably applied, because I find it regrettable that with the award ceremony or afterwards, with the publication of the winners, they don't give the final verdict by the jury. So why they chose a particular watch to win. So I think a watch isn't just the contents, but it's also the book of the cover you need to judge, and it's a symbiosis, and it's almost 50-50. And as a retailer, I'm often not surprised because I'm used to it, but you'd be surprised that even with these the prices, not price, but price of a watch, how often they just go according to aesthetics. So judging the book by the cover. And in that sense, I don't understand the reasoning. So that's my 2 cents on the topic. What are yours, Rob? That says enough, that just that that says it all.
Yeah, I guess it does say enough. Look, Beauvais watches are really well-made timepieces. I love some of the aesthetic elements, and I actually really despise some of the others. I really love the translucent blue dials that they use, the subdials for planet spheres or dates or months or whatever it is that they're turning them to. I think they're great. I think the execution is top drawer on all the components. I just feel like sometimes it's a bit of a mishmash of aesthetics, and they're trying to sort of play the heritage game a little bit with, the 1822 in the title, and then feeling like they have to constantly have some kind of nod to that era. For me, this kind of aesthetic, the real aesthetic strengths of Beauvais, would be better turned towards a hyper-modern watch with a hyper-modern case. Something along the lines of Urwerk would be more interesting for me, and I'd drop the 1822 maybe and just focus on being more innovative and more stylistically aggressive with the exterior, and then maybe a little less going on the dial, but really leaning into what I regard, and it's only my opinion, as the real standout stylistic elements of the designs. I am surprised to see this one win. I thought that Pekulik has got a really good chance because it's an up-and-coming brand. People really like what he's doing with simple movements, reimagining what their displays can look like. But this was a strange category. My choice was my favorite by a long way, but I would have been more comfortable with either the Pekulik or the Massina Habring collaboration winning, and maybe even in some ways I would have been less surprised if the IWC had won, but I think that the Beauvais is maybe a slightly better choice than the IWC. Anyway, I'm very pleased for it. Like we say, we do like Beauvais as a brand, and we do wish them all the best. And well, we don't apologize too much for expressing our opinions, because that's what we do here on the Real Time Show. But
Exactly.
take them on board. If you care, ask yourselves, why do you care? Do you care because we might be right, or do you think we're crazy? If you think we're crazy, keep doing what you're doing. You've just won a GPHG award, so hell, what do we really know? Okay, moving on. What should we do next? So, just as a slight side note, I'm always a bit confused by how the awards process really works, because there are categories that ended up without a winner because the models from those categories won other prizes that outrank the category prize. So, for example, the men's category doesn't have a winner because the winner of the men's category, and we'll discuss that one in a moment, won the Revelation Prize. And the mechanical exception category doesn't have a winner because two models from that won other prizes that weren't part of the category list.
That I didn't understand, because last year some watches won double, didn't they?
Or did they win? No, I don't know if they did win double, but I had a feeling that, for example, last year the overall prize went to MB&F, didn't it? And I was pretty convinced that the category that MB&F was presented in, I think that was the chronograph category then, also had a winner. So, I mean, I'm just going to check that, because it did really get to me when I was looking through the results, I was like, oh, what's going on here? There's some missing. They've been moved around. Yeah, that's right. Okay. I remember this because obviously it was our first two episodes, or episodes 1 and episodes 3. The chronograph prize went to the Grunefeld, but the MB&F won the overall award. Now, maybe they heard a little bit of our subtle criticism for that in last show. I'm not saying that the GPHG changed their rules because of what we said, but maybe that was echoed by many other commentators and saying, well, it doesn't really make any sense. If you win your category and you beat a watch to that prize, surely that watch can't then win a better category. And if a watch like the MB&F wins a better category, surely it has to win the chronograph prize also. So perhaps they have listened to whoever it is they listen to and changed that because it's confusing. I think, personally, the better way to do it would be for every category to have a winner, and then for certain prizes like the Revelation prize or the Aiguille d'Or Grand Prize should be able to be double winners. I think that makes more sense because I think that to get into those conversations, you automatically need to win your category, but then you should be able to get like a little bit on top. What do you think?
Agree.
Yeah, it is a bit confusing. Okay, so we'll move on from the calendar. We'll go straight to the chronograph because this year the chronograph did have a winner. The nominated models were the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore, the de Bethune DB8, the Grand Seiko Tentograph, the Petermann Beda Chronograph Rattrapant, the Singer Reimagined 1969 Chrono, and the Tag Heuer Carrera Chronograph Skipper. Our audience voted for the Singer Reimagined Chrono with so far the biggest percentage share of all over 50%. 54% of the vote went to the Singer. And then trailing that with 20% was the de Bethune, interestingly. Then just behind that, with just over 10% was the Petermann Beda, and then with 10% the Tag Heuer, and then with 3% the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore. So that means the Grand Seiko didn't get any votes, which is probably understandable given the competition. We all expected the Singer to win. It did not. The Petermann Beda won, and that's a model that at least registered a decent percentage in our group. But what did you think about that victory? Surprising?
Surprising, I wouldn't say. What is maybe more surprising, but not so much if you believe in the saying or the one-liner, your vibe attracts your tribe. I found it surprising that the community was concurring so much with us. Now, if the single wasn't there, then I would have gone for the Petermann Beda.
Okay.
Maybe we're halfway through discussing winners. What is interesting, I think the 2023 trend shows us the jury was rather skewed to indies versus the big names, it seems, up until now. Do you see that trend as well?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that might be changing.
Yeah. So that's interesting. And yeah, I guess the jury was on the fence between Singer Reimagined and Petermann Beda. But I agree with the vote. So with the award. So congrats, Petermann and Beda. They deserved it, in my humble opinion. And I love Rattrapants, so I'm subjective.
I mean, it is a nice looking watch. It's well made. And although I don't think I even thought about a second place for this category, I guess I'd agree with you. I think it's a worthy winner. It's much in a muchness, really, when you get down to it. All right, the sports category. This was a pretty hotly contested one and some interesting choices in the group. We had the Chopard Alpine Eagle, which of course I really fell in love with. The Doxa Army Green version. The Grunefeld, the IWC Ingenieur, the Tag Heuer, and the Tudor Pelagos 39. Now, the group voted very favorably, over 35% for the Grunefeld, which aligned with your choice. The second place with 20% was the IWC Ingenieur, which I think is a fair one. Just behind that, just under 20%, was the Chopard Alpine Eagle. And then tied on around 12% were the Doxa and the Tudor. The Tag didn't get a look in here. That doesn't surprise me at all. I think it was probably, if not the weakest, the least beloved of all models in this lineup. The winner and this goes right back to the top of the show, the sports category, as I alluded to, was the Tudor Pelagos 39, which was maybe the most predictable result of all, but it's disappointing. I have to say it's a solid fifth on my list, ahead of the Tag, and everything else smashes it out of the park.
Yeah, I agree. So I believe it's now almost a decade that Tudor wins every year. Is it
Yeah,
rightfully?
that upsets me. I don't think that's how it should be. I don't think we should be able to draw that trend. That doesn't paint the GPHG in a great light for my money. I mean, it's no disrespect to Tudor. They do good stuff, but it's like, okay, maybe the GPHG is more valuable when it's an up-and-coming brand doing something new and interesting, not just like a commercially successful model that retreads relatively old grounds and doesn't do anything gobsmacking.
Yeah, yeah. So in defense of the jury, there is no better value for money, not in the 6 nominees. And maybe if you're talking about a modern tool watch, a GADA watch, GADA, go anywhere, do anything watch, you can't get more buck for your money.
Bang for your buck.
Bang for your buck. You can't get any more bang for your buck. If that's their reasoning, fine. Then obviously the Gernefeld lost, because that's, in that context, extremely expensive.
Yeah, but I don't agree. It's not expensive. It's highly priced. Like,
No, it
you know,
depends what the analogy is, right? So
well, it depends what their working process is. But you, as a
yeah,
retailer, always tell me you never use the word expensive. You're allergic to it. You never say it. So if a watch is fairly priced for what it is, it's not expensive. It can be a lot of money. Like, expensive is a dirty word as far as I'm concerned, and I don't think that the Grunefeld falls into that category at all. Is it highly priced? Is it luxury? Would some people say that a sports watch simply can't be that expensive? Now, that's the line of reasoning I would follow. That I would agree with.
well,
But
I would follow. Sorry,
carry on.
I would follow another reasoning. Since the category is sports, would you actually really go do sports where your watch fulfills a utility, a function? You wouldn't use the Gronefeld, you wouldn't use the Chopin, you wouldn't use the Engineer by IWC. You either want to time something with the chronograph by Monza, the Tech Heuer one, or if you go diving, you would use the Doxa or the Tudor. So technically, if you follow that analogy, there are only 3 real sport watches in there. So it's a mishmash, and it's a bit confusing because you have a very wide range of pricing. You have 2 functionalities, 5 or 3 hand watches. One is a chronograph. 2 only have a bezel, turnable bezel then, let's say, right? So a dive bezel.
Yep.
So it's a difficult category. But after your love letter, your your expression of love for Chopin, you got me hooked. I mean, dude, I wanted to buy one. So, so yeah. After hearing you, I think the Chopin should have won. But okay,
Can I just address, though, the whole category of sports watch? Because it is a confusing category, because the suggestion that a sports watch in reality is a watch with which one would perform sports is, I think, a bit of a misnomer. And I think there's a direct corollary to this in fashion. And I would point to a sports jacket. I've always said this. This is how I define a sports watch, because who would swim with a Nautilus, really? Should be able to, theoretically, but it's not what it's there for. A sports jacket, a sports watch is more like a sporting watch, like a watch with dynamic elements to the design, like a luxury but in more utilitarian materials. To me, it's the watch you wear in the clubhouse, not the watch you wear on the fairway. Now, people might disagree with me there. That's fine. Let's have that discussion. But would I wear a Tudor Pelagos 39 for running? No more likely to do that than I would wear an IWC Schaffhausen Ingenieur, and I might prefer the thinness of the IWC if I'm being quite frank. Would I wear a Tudor Pelagos 39 for playing badminton? No more likely than I would wear the Chopard Alpine Eagle with its high-frequency movement, far better for sustaining shocks. You know, depending on how you look at it, you could argue all of these watches, maybe, in fact, with the exception of the Tag, although it's a very sporting design, are better watches for sport than the Tudor itself. That's an argument. I think you might lose that argument more times, you'd win it, but you could make that argument. But I think the whole category confuses people. I think a sports watch is actually more of a sporting watch, like I say, that you wear in a clubhouse, not on the fairway. So let's move on to the easiest category of the night. That was the jewelry category. And our community agreed with us. We both said the Bulgari Serpenti Cleopatra. Obviously, it took home over, oh wow, it took home over 68% of the vote. It was absolutely dominant. It won the category, by the way. The other models all received some love. All of them were just under 10%. The Gucci, Piaget, Chopard, and the Damiani, and the Van Cleef was right at the bottom with just around 3 and a bit percent. So actually surprised that Gucci beat the Van Cleef. I'm sort of surprised that Piaget didn't get more love, but at the end of the day, since we had such a binary approach to this category myself, I'm almost surprised it wasn't 100% victory for the Bulgari.
So do I. I actually don't need and can add anything to what you said, Rob.
Okay.
Spot on.
Very good. That's what we like. Nice swift category. Moving on to the artistic crafts. Now, this one had votes all over the map. Every one of them was represented in the real-time show networks polling. So we had here the Anderson Genève Jumping Hours Rising Sun that I went for. I think you went for it as well, or did you go for the Sapanieva? I feel like we talked a lot about the Sapanieva. Maybe you went there, or maybe you thought
I went for the Sapanieva, I think, yeah.
Okay, right. So the winner in the group with just under 40% of the vote was the Anderson Genève. And then second place in the group with around 25% was the Sapanieva. And then we had the Piaget actually coming in third with just under 10%. Then the Louis Monet the Piaget came in with just under 20%. Then the Louis Monet with 10%. And then the Rudy Silva Him d'Orient came in just under that. And behind that again was a Van Cleef and Arpels. Van Cleef had a bad run according to our group. It was not popular at all. The winning watch, however, was the Piaget. So the watch that the group voted in third place and the watch that both you and I almost ignored in the rundown. So what do you make of that?
It's interesting to see how the network moved and reasoned and vice versa. Also what the jury did, because I chose the Sapanieva and you chose the Louis Monet, didn't you? Or the Anderson?
I chose the Anderson.
But you gave Louis Monet a beautiful honorable mention.
Of course.
Because of the relief of the puzzles, which I didn't notice. So you really piqued my interest there. So the Piaget won. Should they not have won? No. It is beautiful. It is very artistic. The dial is very, very difficult to make. And by the way, the diamond setting is also done beautifully. But you know what? It's 12 in a dozen. The dial isn't. But is it the best dial out there in this category? I don't think so. And it's not innovative, not new compared to the others. So I hoped the jury would have chosen either the Louis Monet or the Rudy Silva, personally. If we just go to according how difficult it is to make by hand. So the craftsmanship and also, equally as important, the level of artistry. Is that an English word, Rob?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Okay.
Very nice. Okay, next category, the Petit Aiguille, which is the category that requires the watch to be between 3,500 and 8,000 francs before taxes. And those before taxes, very important in some cases. So I picked the Hebring, and you picked the Christopher Ward Bell Canto, I believe.
Yes.
And you won. You were correct. According to the jury, the Bel Canto won, and I have no qualms with that decision at all. I think it is a very, very worthy winner, considering the two picks that we made both occupied the opposite ends of the pricing spectrum. And so what the Bel Canto has done at 3,500 or ballpark around that is absolutely incredible. It was the favourite in the group with 1/3 of voters going for that. And then second place was actually the Octo with just over 20%. And then with exactly 20%, the Habring. Below that, the Louis Arad. And then with just 1 or 2 percentage points each, the Tudor Black Bay and the Massina Lab. Okay, so I think they got it right. I think that's an easy one. Congratulations to Adrian, who featured on this voting list also within the network, and we'll reveal exactly where Adrian finished overall at the end of the show, because he covered himself in glory with his picks. Anything to add?
Yes, and also congrats to our esteemed guest Mike France, the co-founder and CEO of Christopher Ward, who's been on the show as well. So we've actually gave Christopher Ward a platform, and there were some heated debates, but they did take the stage and answer them, and they're very accessible, which I like, and I'm happy for them that they've won. Because if you suspect the jury to be sensitive to political games, or dare I use the word bribery, it's interesting because hardly any big groups have won up until now. And what is important to know, Christopher Ward is a D2C brand. It's a B2C brand. That means direct to consumer. They don't have retailers. They don't have wholesalers. They are now 50% Swiss, 50% English. They used to be 100% English with Swiss watches, but now they literally have half their operation is in Switzerland. So they're half Swiss, but it's interesting that they did get the vote because it is a Swiss award ceremony, and there are a lot of Swiss people both in the jury and in the hall when this all takes place. So for me, that's also interesting to see.
It's interesting, but it is the right decision in this case, and I'm glad they won. They deserve it. And although I've never been a fan of the Bel Canto's aesthetics, I can't deny it's really starting to grow on me. So
I'm definitely getting one.
Yeah, I think I might end up buying one myself at some point, but it's tough. There's so many watches to be bought. Who knows when that might be? Maybe a TRTS special edition. That would be nice. Okay, next up, the challenge category. Now, this is a category that we all absolutely love because it's a lot of fun. It's a watch that's under 3,000. It means that brands have to get super creative to provide something that is good value, horologically interesting, and beautiful. Talking of beautiful, it looks like our community finds a studio underdog, the sexiest of the bunch, with its pink and green watermelon livery. It's easily the most popular amongst the TRTS network. It got 50% of the vote, with 20% trailing was the Nomos Glaciter that you and I both picked. Following that, just under 20%, Timeless Swiss Watch HMS 003, which I'm very pleased to see. And then with just above 10%, the Kurono Tokyo GMT. For the first time in the whole rundown, we have two watches that didn't receive a single vote, and that's the Seiko and the Raymond Weil. Or Raymond Weil, how do you say it?
Raymond Weil.
Raymond Weil. Toll.
Weil. Ein bisschen Deutsch.
Ein bisschen Deutsch. Aber es ist der Gewinner. Can you believe it?
No, I can't. I really, really can't. It could have won on value for money. Is it a nice dial? Yes, but the Sector dial is not new. It's not modern. It's a retro inspired. I don't think they've ever made it because Raymond Weil is 40 years old. The company, not the man. So again, I'm happy for them. I have no criticism towards Raymond Weil, but it's not sexy. It's not modern. It's not innovative. It's not new. It is a good value for money, 1,950 euros. for
No.
probably a Salita Eta, I think. It's not a manufacturer. I'm trying to find out if it's manufacturer or not, but I can't find it up until now. Uh, Again, we keep on saying Rob and I are not objective towards Nomos. But if you follow the analogy of value for money, nobody can beat the Nomos.
Yeah, but
If you
you always say we're not objective towards Nomos, but our subjectivity is grounded in a lot of irrefutable facts. And
as
okay,
well,
yeah, we like the look of the watches, but like Nomos is an exceptional company that's done exceptional things in an incredible time frame. Yes, you were a dealer. Yes, I was a sales executive for them, but that doesn't mean that we necessarily are biased towards them for no good reason. Like you wanted to become a dealer for years because of what Nomos is. Like it's not like we're bought. They haven't paid us. They don't give us freebies. We love the company because they do great things. So yeah, okay, we're not objective, but like I think that we love them for objective reasons. So do we
spot
need
on.
to say it? I mean, come
Fair
on,
enough.
like
So let me pick up there because it's very valuable what you said, and to keep on going in my analogy. And then if we go on the axis of fun, cool, sexy, Studio Underdog should have won. And I've said it. If it wasn't the perpetual version, so it's an iteration of the original watermelon, and if they've submitted the first ever watermelon, that would have gotten my vote. But equally on that axis, the Nomos wins with that electric green dial, the Kali dial, so the mix of Arabic and Roman numerals, the orange seconds hand. So again, and then worst case, if that's not your cup of tea, the timeless Swiss watch should have won because that's a new font. I don't think it's ever done before. It's new, it's innovative. So yeah, I don't understand. And let's, for the sake of argument, say that the Raymond Weil is manufacture. It still can't beat the Nomos on the axis of manufacture.
I mean, it's a 38-hour, 28,800 vibrations per hour self-winding mechanical. There's no mention of it being manufactured in any of the write-up, and if it were, it would certainly be mentioned in that top of the description. I mean, find out for
Fair
sure.
enough. Yeah.
Do a little bit of Googling while I'm running down the next category.
I'm Googling already for 5 minutes and I can't find it, but I want to be sure.
Well,
Anyways, I think you're right.
I mean, I know the proof of absence isn't. I know the absence of proof isn't the proof of absence, but if you were searching for Raymond Vale GPHG manufactured caliber and it was, surely someone would have mentioned it because that would be news. Meanwhile, for 300 francs fewer, the Nomos Club Campus is a manufacture movement, hand wound with an experimental use of colors on the dial. Is it a new model? No. Is it going to set the world alight? No. But is it the best watch within that category? Well, okay, like you say, we have our biases, but for good reason.
The category is challenger. So the biggest challenger here is Nomos, both on design and quality and mechanical aspects. But let's move on.
I do like the way you took that though, because Studio Underdog also challenges the established order, so that's a good piece for that. Anyway, we know what our favorites are. The jury didn't agree. Mechanical clock. Oh, I must have got a point here. Surely I got a point here. Which one? Oh no, that's right. It didn't win. Oh, in fact, you didn't get a point either because the winner of the mechanical clock was the Lepe 1839 Time Fast 2 Chrome, so the one that looks like a car. Cool clock, great. Who buys them? I don't know. But yeah, well done. Congratulations, Lepe. I mean, they don't need another award. Like, everybody knows who they are. Everybody knows that they're one of the greatest clockmakers on the planet. And I guess that makes a lot of sense. Anything to add?
No, let's move on. Chronometry prize?
Yeah, let's go on to the chronometry prize. Now, this is one of the categories that doesn't exist, which means that the winner has been pulled from a category that therefore became defunct. The chronometry prize went to the Ferdinand Bateau Chronometer FB3 SPC that previously occupied the men's prize, as did the winner of the Horological Revelation prize, which was Simon Brett, which we chose as our winner in the men's category. or maybe you did. I can't actually remember if I did, but one of us did. I'm
We
sure
we
it was
did
you.
both. Yeah,
Did we?
did both.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So the jury agreed that the Simon Brett deserved a prize. It's funny because Simon Brett and the Simon Brett both deserved the prize. But as a result of the changes from last year as well, there is no men's winner because these two watches from that category went on to win their own individual higher ranked categories. Okay, Ferdinand Berthaud, very well done. I think it deserves it. It's not my favorite Ferdinand Berthaud, as I outlined on the previous show. Simon Brett absolutely could have been the overall winner of the show. I think that's what you picked for your overall winner of the show, and perhaps it should have been. What do you think?
Again, I agree about the chronometry prize. I mean, what's in a name? So Ferdinand Berthaud named this model the chronomètre FB3 SPC. So it says it all. Congrats, Schöffele family. For those that don't know, Ferdinand Berthaud is an old name revived by Karl Bucher. Karl Bucher. Sorry, it's Karl. He has two names, Schöffele. So the
Frederick,
owners
I think.
of
Carl
Frederick Schöffele, the current co-CEO and owner of Chopard, together with his sister. So this is truly a passion project for them, and I really appreciate that. He has revived Ferdinand Berthaud and he's really pushing the envelope. So rightfully so. And the Horological Revelation Prize, well, that was kind of a no-brainer. What did the community say about the Brett?
Well, what did they say about the Brett? Let's go and have a look at that that vote, because that was in the men's category, yeah. So the Simon Brett won the men's category in their opinion with just over 30% of the vote. Close behind it was the Audemars Piguet, actually, the Wandering
Star
Hours.
Wheel?
Yeah, the Star Wheel, thanks. I always call it the Wandering Hours. Then it was the Parmigiani Fleurier in the men's category, and tied on 10% each, Ferdinand Berthaud and the Jevdet Recepi, and trailing the pack, but with a few votes for under 3%, was the Debatoon DB28 XS Starry Seas, yeah. Okay, so the Simon Brett was the favourite amongst the group. I don't know how Colm actually scored this in the end because the category didn't exist, but I guess anybody that picked that watch for it will have got a point, and probably the same for the Ferdinand Berthaud. Anyone that picked that will probably have got a point because they did win a category. Okay. So next up, let's do the Innovation Prize. This went to a watch that was originally listed in the Mechanical Exception category, which also offered up the overall Aiguille d'Or Grand Prize winner. The first one for the Innovation Prize is the Haute-Lance Sphere Series 1. It's a very worthy winner. Nothing is like the Sphere. It's not a particularly new watch, but it has been redesigned. The movement has been changed for Haute-Lance's soft relaunch, which has been rolling out this year. Thoughts?
Well, I'm going to repeat what I said on the episode when we discussed this watch. I'm super happy for Samuel. I'm super happy for the Melan family that owns Haute-Lance. Samuel is the CEO. They deserve it. I have a feeling, not so much that they don't deserve it and the jury wanted to give them some wings because they do deserve this prize. But I guess our theory still stands at, we were almost at the end of our review show. This jury was very much skewed, and I'm happy about that, towards the independents. So that's the only thing I want to say about that.
Talking of the Mechanical Exception category that ceased to exist because of the two winners of other prizes that came from it, our community voted 40% in favour of the Haute-Lance in there. And the second place was just over 30%, and that was the Chapek. I think that was my pick. Then down with just over 10% is the Audemars Piguet. And then just under 10% the Rudy Silver, and then with just a couple of percentage points each, we've got Jacob & Co. and Louis Vuitton. We'll talk about the other models that come out of that category in a moment, but it obviously didn't win our audience's hearts as much as the Haute-Lance did, so congratulations to Haute-Lance. So, special jury prize. This is not for a watch, but for watchmakers. This goes to Sven Anderson and Vincent Calabresi. So, well done to two living legends of the industry. You can't say anything against that whatsoever. Just well done, gentlemen. You deserve it.
Can we call them icons?
I think you can call them icons, yes. By my
That was,
definition.
yeah, of course, that was rhetorical and sarcastic. So, Rob, we have two left.
Yeah, we have two left, which is weird because we shouldn't have two left because one of them completely turns our idea of what the GPHG was trying to do by eliminating categories that had winners in other prizes on its head. And that's the Audacity Prize, which actually comes from a category that already has a winner. Now, there is one
Yeah, that
category.
confused me.
Well, it confuses everyone because it makes no sense. There's no consistency in it. But unless the Audacity Prize is the only one to which that rule applies, also doesn't really make any sense. The only excuse I could maybe make for it, if I was feeling particularly generous, which I'm not, but I'll put it out there anyway, is that the category from which it came is so specialized, perhaps they had no choice but to just make an exception to their whatever the hell it is rule. It's a clock. It's another clock. It's neither clock that we picked. It's the Maison Alcé Percé Azur. It's I don't know why it won the Audacity Prize. Really, it's not that audacious. Really, it just looks like a clock. What do you think? Maybe the
I
mainspring.
think
The mainspring looks enormous. Perhaps.
I think that we're missing something, and we didn't do our homework properly, and there's something special there that, but maybe because it doesn't speak to me design wise, I don't know. I do love clocks, table clocks and wall clocks for the record, but I don't know. This doesn't speak to me. So congrats, Maison Alcé, and we'll promise that we'll do our homework better next time.
I mean, I'm looking through some of the specs and some of the story behind it, and I'm seeing what's impressive. 300-hour power reserve. That's not amazing. It's a couple of weeks. Not even. And 18,000 VPH. I mean, you've got wristwatches that have a much higher power reserve than that, thanks to Stefano von Guten. Well done, Ort Reeve. 95% of the 233 components were made in the Franco-Swiss Jura Arc, which is nice, but you kind of expect that. So I don't know. We'll dig into it more, and if we have reason to walk back some of our apathy, then we will do so. But in the meantime, nice clock, well done, good price, only 5,800 francs, very nice. But yeah, I just don't really know, and I don't know why that one category survived the cull, or why the clock category had a winner of its own, should I say? So let's move on to the very final prize, the best in show, the winner of the Grand Prix award, the Aiguille d'Or. It is, perhaps from a political standpoint, unsurprisingly, Audemars Piguet with the code 1159 Ultra Complication Universelle RD number 4. Now, this came from the mechanical exception category, as did the Haute Lance, as did the Chapek that didn't receive any love from the jury, as did the totally ignored Rudi Silva, Louis Vuitton, and Jacob & Co. Alon, neither one of us picked this for the Grand Prix. What do you think?
Yeah, well, it doesn't surprise me, and they deserve it because I've said on record, I believe, if I recollect correctly, it mechanically, it's mind blowing. And I believe that they've broken records in the grand complication sphere of things. So you can call a watch a grand complication if it has at least 4 complications, of which a chronograph definitely is a complication. A lot of people think it's not. But I understood why they chose it, and Audemars Piguet definitely deserved it. And we need to give a big shout out to Renaud and Papy, the studio is fully owned by Audemars Piguet for over 2 decades now. So, and I'm happy that they at least didn't use a royal case and gave the code 1159 the honor to flex this caliber.
Yeah. Well, what can I say? I can't get away from this being a choice that was made without even the watch being necessary to be part of the decision process. But it's complicated. Yeah, it's all right, I suppose. It ticks the boxes on paper. I don't know whether it's because I think that the dial layout is an absolute atrocity, or whether I just feel like there's more interesting stuff to which this award could have gone, but it's underwhelming. Last year when the MBNF won, I was absolutely thrilled. I thought it was the right choice. I thought it was a very worthy winner. This year, I just see a few watches around it. Like the Simon Brett could easily have been that pick. I think something like the Lion Ferrier Grand Sport or the HYT Chronicle Tourbillon, they could have been the pick for me. It's hell, even the Chapek in the category. I mean, that was my pick. I picked the Chapek over the Audemars Piguet in the category. Why not? What about your Grunefelds? Also more impressive, in my opinion. But, the jury has gone where the jury's gone, and that's all well and good. I just have to quickly revert to our polls from the group. I didn't read out the results of the clock vote for them, and since there were 2 clocks on the prize list, I probably should do that. So our network voted over 1/3, 37% for the Alain Zilberstein travel alarm clock. So that was your choice, and it was mine until you convinced me live on air that I was wrong, and I should have picked the Unnamed Society, which I agree. You knew me better than myself in that moment, and that one got just over 10%, which was third place. The Lepe that won the award in the end came in just behind the Alan Silverstein, actually, with just under a third. And then with just under 10%, the Van Cleef and the Matthew Norman. The loser was the winner of the Audacity Prize with just a slither of a percent. The Maison Alcé Percé Azur just crept on to the statistics sheet. So interesting how that went. Funny that one came away with a prize of all the timepieces that were voted for this year. And of course, there were some that received 0 votes from our community. That was the lowest number of votes that manifested in a prize at the fair. So I guess we all have a lot to learn in terms of the dynamics of the GPHG jury, but that's what makes these kinds of things so much fun.
Very well said. And before you do the infamous outro, I want to give a big shout out and express our gratitude to Com. Finally, I pronounced his name correctly. It's C-O-M-E, but pronounced as Com. He took the initiative, I believe together with Lawrence, to create this community-based poll to sync with us while we're going through the GPHG 2023. 100% done by the community, initiated by the community, and executed by the community. So thank you so much. It was lovely, really. Thank you.
It was. We do really appreciate it. And I have the results of the top 3 places just so the guys get their names shouted out on the show. Third place is a 6-way tie with 5 correct answers, which is pretty good actually when you think about it, because, I mean, there's not that many categories. We have Adrian Bookman, you might have heard of him, Roland, Jason, David Lafferty, Walter, and Lawrence, all with 5 points, so you can all share a bronze medal. Well done. Not an actual bronze medal, the virtual bronze medal. Maybe next year we'll make some actual medals with like soon-to-be-unveiled mascot on one side of them. Next up, in second place, well, actually, it's Jason again because he entered 2. he cheated. He didn't cheat. He had ones that I would like to win and ones that I think will win. So he got 6 points the second time around, which is very interesting. I wonder what kind of crossover there was in his point scoring, whether the ones that he wanted also picked up prizes that he didn't expect them to, and vice versa. And Max got 6 points as well, so well done, Max. That's an incredible total. But the winner is relative newcomer, JV, who I think only joined the network in the last couple of weeks, and blew us all away with 7 points. I mean, like I say, Alan, I'm not sure what we got. I think you got 3 and I got 2 or something like that. We didn't even register on the podium. So congrats to the community. Well done again to everybody that took part, and thank you to those of you that built it for us. Well, that wraps it up. Another year of the GPHG, an interesting one, not without its controversy. And we look forward to doing the same thing again next year with hopefully even more controversy, because that's what makes this show interesting. A little bit of real talk and a little bit of real drama. If you would like to get involved with the show, you can do so by contacting us either on our newly formed Instagram page exclusively for the show. That's at therealtime.show on Instagram, via our usual personal handles at RobNuds, ROBNUDDS, at Alon Ben Joseph, ALONBENJOSEPH, or at David Vaucher, but DAVAUCHER. Either contact Alon or I via email, either Rob or Alon at therealtime.show. You can use the contact form on the website, www.therealtime.show. Please like, follow, subscribe, and if you have time, leave a comment for us on the podcast, and we will be back soon with more high-quality watch content. Until then, stay safe and keep on ticking.